Well, let's move away from that story in Zambia and come back to Nigeria. Ahead of the 2023 general election, many persons from different political quarters have decried the lack of presence of youths vying for various offices in the country's political space. Ondo State chapter of the Social Democratic Party (SDP) has enjoined the youths to go out massively to join political parties to enable them to be part of the decision-making process.
The SDP said the time had come for youths to actively participate in politics so as to change the mantra and be part of the paddlers of the nation's canoe. The state chairman of the party, Stephen Adewale, gave the charge in Akure while speaking on the state of the nation and of the party. Now, according to him and according to the report, the youths of Nigeria had all it takes to take over the affairs of the country, hence the need for them to be involved in the nation's politics.
Well, aside from the SDP, other politicians and aspirants have equally added their voices to drum support for national youth participation in politics. Yet, there seems to be a vacuum of empty representation from close quarters. Joining us this morning, all the way from the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, is Remy Adebayo. Remy is a youth leader and he's here to talk some more. Remy, welcome to Breakfast Central. We're following incidences that occurred during the NSAS period. It was indicated that youths will come forward in numbers to take charge in vying for political offices. And what we see now is not the same. So why are we not seeing the youths at this time?
Thank you very much. And I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak out on this. The first thing I think we have to look at is that the Nigerian policy itself does not suggest that the youths are being brought up to take up the mantle of leadership. First, I want you to remember that we have a policy that we call the new National Youth Policy. The one that we had, which is the latest one, came out in 2019. And that policy, according to age categorization of who is a Nigerian youth, says that a person between the age of 18 and 35 that used to be previously has changed. The Nigerian youth policy today runs between age 18 and 29. So if you look at that, that's like about 6 years taken away from those that could be classified as youth. And if you want to look at the participation, of course, we are all alive when the youth, championed by organizations like YAGA, asked that the Nigerian youth should be given the opportunity through the Not Too Young to Run Act now. We see what happened, and one expected that from that moment on, the youth will organize themselves and take over or begin to mobilize themselves to take over certain leadership positions. But the distractions, I think, has not really helped. First, when we are looking at what happened in 2020, I think, with the October NSAS protest, you will agree with me that, yes, the youth came together for a particular cause, something that was laudable at the beginning before it was obstructed by whatever reason we all have to adjust to that today. But the truth is that the youth have not come to the reality of the political environment in Nigeria. We have to be realistic about that. In 2019, you have young people. I won't even say the youth now because I cannot call people like Fela Durotoye, Omoyole Sowore, Kingsley Mogadu, and others. I won't call them youth. They are not youth. They are younger people. You know, people like me. I can't call myself a youth anymore, if by the Nigerian Constitution or the policy that I just called our attention to. But we are not realistic. Realistic in the sense that whoever is serious about leadership in Nigeria today must know where to go. For instance, the presidential age for a Nigerian, if you want to be a Nigerian president, you must have attained the age of 35. If you look at the categorizations now, or the policy that I just told you, a youth cannot be president, you know? So there are realizations that we have to accept that aside from the office of the president, aside from the office of the governor, there are certain other positions that the youth must be asking for. Everything must not be about the president. As they organized themselves in 2020 in Lagos, in Abuja, and other cities where the EndSARS protest took place to effect certain reforms in the Nigerian police. Imagine if that had been taken, if that had been translated into a political force. I'm not saying that they should go and form political party or revolution now. But if the youth at that level, with that organization, said yes, as it is today, with the resources that were put together during the EndSARS and everything, and said, look, let you, in your locality, which particular party is feasible there, which one can the people go for? It is APC. Now, you in Ondo State, go to APC. You in Oyo State, go to PDP. You in Rivers State, go to, depending on the localities and the interest of the people. But what do we have? The youth are scattered in fact, they are not organized. I think that's just the issue. They are not organized. That is one. And secondly, apart from that, we also have to realize that the political parties themselves are shutting out the youth population from participating in the election. Just yesterday, the APC came out with what I would call a very killing and humongous nomination form list. If you want to be a president under the APC, you must have 100 million naira. Where do you take that from? From where? And we are talking about a nation where we don't want the coming generation to steal, to be corrupt, to go into the public purse and be looting. So those are the issues. Although yes, we can say that we have youth that are doing well in businesses, that are technocrats, that are making waves, that are doing well. But if I have to buy the nomination form of a political party for 100 million naira, I think the one that is cheaper next to it is that of the PDP, that is going for 40 million naira. Expression of interest for 5 million naira.
Yeah, Remy, I need to come in here because I disagree with some of the statements you've made. Now, you came out to say that it looks like the youths were unorganized. But if you go back to the EndSARS saga that happened, you do realize and you will accept the fact that the youths were pretty much organized because they raised funds during that period as well. They were able to come together irrespective of the different locations where they were, and they raised a lot of funds to ensure that the EndSARS happened and occurred the way it did. Even though it was quite unfortunate, it ended in a very bad way. Now, even for the presidential forum you're talking about, that political party in particular came out to say that there's going to be a 50% reduction for any youth who can come out and tell us that their age is below that of 40 years. So if we're looking at the youth at this point in time, it may seem as if they're uninterested in politics, because when it comes to that which interests them, they will come together as a formidable force to ensure that their voices are heard, don't you think?
Yes, I'm still going to disagree with you. What you see in October 2020, that we call the EndSARS protest, is impulsive gathering, impulsive organization. It wasn't intentional. The youth, to participate in politics is not going to be on impulse. It has to be very intentional. And have you asked yourself why the EndSARS protest as it is, as organized as it was, why there was no face to its leadership? You can't do politics like that. There must be a face put forward in politics. You cannot say you want to contest election today and nobody knows you. You have to have a structure. You have to have everything. That did not happen with EndSARS. It was impulsive reaction all over the country based on the sentiment of that time about the feelings of the SARS unit of the Nigerian police. The youth were feeling it wherever they were. Even those that were denying it in the north, they were feeling it. And even till today, they are still feeling it. So what I'm saying is that for the youth, okay, imagine if whatever happened that period, if a leadership face had been put into that in organization and say, fine, we want to translate this, we want this to transmute into a political force. It is a democracy. We cannot do a coup, we cannot do a revolution, but we can organize ourselves to seize power, to effect the reform that we want to see in our nation. And they decide that now, let us go and disrupt the system. Let us go through one of these two major political parties. That
But
is the
Remy,
way to go
I don't
about
mean to
it.
come in once again, but at this point, you did mention the fact that it was impulsive. And if you look at an impulsive action that generated such response, then how much more if it was well organized? And we cannot have a scenario played out in our heads because it has never happened before in our history. It has never occurred in Nigeria's history where youth come out in this magnitude, despite the fact that it was a faceless act, but people still came together. Even those that were in diaspora were also in unison with what was happening in the country. So painting a picture of what it may happen or how it might turn out for something that has never happened in history is just us giving us a theoretical version of what we think it should be, don't you think?
But we did not sustain it. Don't forget. Political party participation is not just going to be what you do, you gather at the point you left. I have been in the student union maybe for the period that I was in the university. I know what it means. At least, if you're involving yourself in a cause and you have to go out on protest, there is a body regulating that, which is the students' union. It's not that did not happen with the NSAS. You have to organize. You have to understand that. In political party participation, you must be intentional about going out. I'm not saying that what happened that period was not okay. It was fantastic. Before it was hijacked by whatever forces that turned that into a nightmare for us. It was very, very fantastic. But what I'm saying is that the organizers of that particular protest, a movement, something was supposed to have come from it to translate that into a force for the Nigerian youth to have a political voice. That did not happen. And we have to agree. I am not saying, like I said, that whatever feelings that you have, whatever the youth feel, it is only through democratic channel that you can effect certain changes. The
I agree
opportunity
with you, Remy.
came.
I
All
agree
right.
with you. Democratic practice is the only way to
All right.
get our voices heard.
All right, Remy, quickly, because of our time, I mean, as a youth leader, what do you think is responsible for this poor representation ahead of the 2023 elections coming from the youths?
Well, I think one of them is, like I said, you may not see that is still debatable that we have not organized ourselves enough to understand that we do not need all the distractions. We do not to split ourselves into many political parties. We have to look at the parties that can really have impact in elections, join them, go within them, and try to effect certain changes. We cannot stay aloof. We cannot, by today, I don't believe that we have to say, we have to believe that the APC or the PDP, they are the parties of the Satans, the APGA in the south, in the southeast, is for certain people that we cannot go there. We should go there. Secondly, I think another issue that we have has to do with all this cost of the cost of funds. I remember that Adamu Garuba, one of the younger person that is interested in the APC presidential ticket, immediately after that announcement of the funds rate yesterday, he was very bitter that he looked at, yes, the way we are now, we have to rescue our nation from money bags. So it's turning out that if you don't have money, if you are not a money bag, if you are not stupendously rich, you may not be able to aspire to become anything in Nigeria. And that is very sad. You must have, despite the 50% reduction that we are talking about for women, for youth, I think women are having their own form free. I believe that apart from others, we should even be thinking about how do we include people with disabilities. That disabled physically does not mean that they cannot contribute to the system.
Exactly.
So those are the things I think we have to be looking at, and the youth must be very, very resilient and continue to demand for what is their own. We have to go to those decision levels by participating, joining political parties if possible, so that when the decision for all these nomination forms and other things are being made, there will be a voice there that will say, no, we cannot afford this. Or even when we can afford it, when we get to power, this is going to tie us to certain money bags. Imagine if somebody has to go and look for 100 million naira or even 50 million naira, and it's being bankrolled by someone of questionable character. What will happen when that individual gets to power? Then it becomes a slave to that person. It becomes subservient to that place. The loyalty of that individual goes to that particular person, not to the nation, not to the state. So those are the issues we have to be looking at. We must not run away from it. We have to go right there.
So
it is
many
our
issues.
legitimate right as younger people to participate actively in how we are governed. And the only tool that we have is through those political means, so that we can effect legitimate changes through democratic means. And the youth must not shy away from that. They must join it.
The youth must not shy away from that. Thank you so much for your time. I wish we had more time to talk about the physically disabled people, because in countries like Kenya, where the election is happening, the tickets are free for those category of people. And when you're comparing our ticket to countries like Kenya, that is also having their presidential election sometime this year, the presidential election ticket is going for as low as $8,600. Ours is over $230,000. But thank you so much, Remi Adebayo, the youth leader, Nigeria.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to be here.